Not the fashion, and I'm here with Paul from Reagan Youth from New York City. Welcome. In Santa Cruz, USA, we are here on location in the US. Okay. Hey Paul, how are you, man?
Hi Marco. I want to say it's an honor to have someone from the Netherlands to come all the way to the West Coast to do an interview with my band. I've been to the Netherlands before. Loved the venues, loved the people, loved driving through there, and a shout out to Antidote, the hardcore band from Holland, Amsterdam, because there's an Antidote in New York City.
I know. And
I think it would be great if the New York City Antidote and the Dutch Antidote could do a gig together.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. Two great bands playing together. I'm just putting it out there.
No, yeah, that's great. Hey, first of all, I want to ask you, you started in 1980, right? In New York City?
We started in 1980 when Reagan, it was obvious Reagan was going to become president. Like it was like when Obama ran against like Mitt Romney. Like it was everyone knew Jimmy Carter was going to lose. So David, the singer, said, you know, let's take this serious and call the band Reagan Youth. And we had songs and they were silly. You know, we were like kids. We wrote silly things, but as we got older, you know, and when I mean older, when we left junior high school, middle school, and went to high school, that's right before college, you're talking about being 15, 16, 17 years old, that's when we decided to take the band seriously.
Because your lyrics are very left-wing, political, and I go, you know, very.
I like to think they're not.
Lyrics.
I like to think they're not left-wing. I like to think they're just anarchist lyrics because basically the left wing seems to have been taken over by mass media too, and you know, right, left. There's always going to be a schism. You know, Catholic, Orthodox. You know, these are gang signs. You know, like Crips and Bloods. Only after 1,000 years, it's going to be states. You know, the state of Crapola and Blood. You know, Blood Mania or whatever. You know.
Sometimes the left is the new right in some ways, and
true.
And but yeah.
And it's almost like, all right, look, the left likes to say a lot of things, but when it comes to actually doing them, they don't.
I agree.
All right, Joe, listen. In America, the president is a Democrat.
Yeah.
The senators, they are split 50-50, so the vice president has the deciding vote. So that is run by the Democrats. House of Representatives are run by the Democrats. For all I know, Donald Trump could be a Democratic spy who said, I am going to make sure to only have 4 years where I make sure that the Democrats gain the majority in the Senate, which they didn't have, gain the majority in the House of Representatives, which they didn't have, and they could have the presidency. And yet, with all three, you know, Senate, and then you have the president, and then you have the, you know, the what do you call, sorry, I'm spacing out here. But, you know, when you have all three, you know, House of Representatives, Senator, and President, all three are Democrats in the majority, and they still can't get anything done. What does that tell you? That tells you that they're just like the right. They are just like the right. And this country, you know what, this country was founded by rich, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant landowners. And when they said all men are created equal, they meant all white Anglo-Saxon Protestant males that owned vast tracts of land. I'm not talking about a house with a backyard. I'm talking about people that, like, this land is mine. And the way they looked at it is they came here, they annihilated the Native Americans, the tribes, they broke every treaty. People that were here prior to the Europeans coming say white men speak with forked tongue, break many treaties. I think there's 500 treaties the American government broke with the tribes that were inhabiting, and they don't even acknowledge the history of these people.
Music.
Which is like pretty horrendous.
Yeah.
You know, and I like going to a place like Germany and hearing Germans say, thank you for pointing out your own country's faults and not ours. We're just going to keep talking about Hitler and the Jews? Like Americans didn't do like horrible things? And this is what me and Dave, when we were children, you know, in high school, but young adults, children becoming young adults, we wanted to expose society, you know, all its faults, so we can get better. And we did it with humor. You know, you have to add some humor to it. And if anyone looks at the band's record,
I saw the covers.
Please don't take that seriously.
No.
And you know what? But some people do.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is, you want people to open up the book. Don't judge a book by its cover. Open up and read the book.
Yes.
And I wish there'd be more people who read books instead of doing their research online. Oh, look at this. Let there be more light.
Like heaven on earth.
Yes.
What was the overall influence? Was political things like things you were not happy about society?
Both of our, me and Dave and I, both our parents experienced World War II. My grandfather on my father's side fought with the fascists.
Yeah.
He was in that scary army called the Ustasha. That was the Croatian army that made German Nazis look reasonable. And then my mom's father, when the Nazis showed up to our village, grabbed every male aged 15 to 50, took them to the mountains and just killed them, you know?
I know.
And in my father's village, there was a different army every 2 weeks, all right? So when my father was like 8, my mom was 5, that's when the war started in 1941. For 4 years, they didn't go to school. My mom told me how she and the entire village shit insects for a month. And this damages you. And they raised me, you know, they were damaged, and they raised me, you know, to be damaged. Dave's parents, same thing. They didn't allow him to go out and play. They didn't allow him to interact. They were too afraid because of what they just experienced. And David's mother was very pretty, very beautiful, and I think the Nazi men probably, this beautiful woman, I know she's Jewish, but we have to kill her? That one, the really good-looking one, I'm sure they were like, you know, no, my dick is telling me no on this one. I know Hitler's saying yes, but my penis says no. And Dave's father was was in Poland, but when they split, you know, Germany and Russia split Poland, he was on the Russian side. And the Russians didn't want anything to do with Polish Jews, and an English general, Anders, showed up and took these Polish Jews and made an army out of them. They didn't do much fighting, but they ended up being that army that founded the state of Israel. And I remember talking to Dave. So the Palestinians threw the Jews and your mom's relatives in the concentration camps? No, that was the Germans. Okay, so why don't they treat the Germans like shit? Did Palestinians ever treat Jewish people bad? No. Then I don't understand, David, you know, why are Jewish people being mean to Palestinians when it was the Germans that did all this mean stuff and he didn't have an answer. He was very smart. I like being with people who are smarter than me and better than me so I can better myself. I don't want to be around people that are lesser than me so I can feel better about myself. I feel better about myself when I'm around people like your father, who has lived longer and has more experience than me.
That's true.
Or someone like you, who is young and who's overcome something with a diagnosis. Open-minded, and also diagnosed with autism, and look at you now. You're traveling and we're having a conversation, and that's just a word. It's just a word. We are more than just words. In America, they are so sneaky with the language. During the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, the judge said the word victim is a cousin to this word no. Words aren't cousins. Human beings have cousins. You and I may have a cousin. I have cousins. Maybe your father has cousins. Words don't have cousins. And this is the first thing the judge says. You know the trial is fixed right from there. And they still want to push this white supremacy. And it's not. And then there's a tiny country, Haiti. Back in the 80s when Reagan Youth started, everyone said HIV/AIDS came from Haiti. And it's the Haitians that brought it. Now, Haiti's that one country that's been started by black people, right? By enslaved people who overthrew their masters and won their freedom. But because of their skin color, they are shut. Now, they helped Bolivar, who Bolivia is named after, free the Colombian territory, Panama, Venezuela. I'm sorry. But they did that, and the only thing they asked in return was that end slavery wherever it may be. Haiti did more to end slavery. America, the 14th Amendment, did not end slavery. It just ended slavery for those who are free, but for those who get thrown in jail, you can go work for 8 cents a day. Let's move on.
Right.
But that in general, I can make concrete that everything what's going on in the world, it frustrated you, and you started the band to spread the message, what you feel and what you want.
And this way, we were able to deal with our frustrations by making valid points and also adding sense of humor, because otherwise you're just gonna cry if you just see how horrible situations are.
So by the music you spread your message.
If the message is great, but if the music isn't good, who's gonna hear the message? You need good music or the message won't be heard. There are bands that have amazing lyrics and no one's gonna listen to it because the music
sucks.
Yes. And then you have amazing musicians, and I like King Crimson. They had a lyricist who wrote some amazing lyrics, and then there's a song like Happy Family and stuff like from the Lizard record that don't make sense, but I still love that song. When you read the lyrics, they don't make sense. But if your lyrics make sense, it is essential to have music that is just as frantic and impulsive to go grab. Yeah, that music. Urban Savages, the song Urban Savages, has tribal drumming. Tribal drumming, savages, you want to connect them. You know what I mean? So it's a song about savages and has tribal drumming. That was my singer Dave Insurgent's genius, to be able to make sure the music matched with his lyrics.
You're from New York, and how was the competition between New York hardcore at that time? And is it changed over the years? How is the rivalry between the bands? Is there a rivalry? Is there some competition in the scene?
I think there's always going to be cliques and competition on the scene. I think the old time bands, there are no. We all get along, and I know our politics don't jive, but Murphy's Law, Agnostic Front, those are our friends. Beatrice, my merch girl, is friends with the guitar player from Madball. He's the nicest guy. What am I gonna say there's a problem, with a fellow New York hardcore band? Never.
cool.
Okay.
That's cool.
Right.
Yes.
And,
And you need unity like that.
yeah, true. And about the later movement of New York hardcore with AF, Agnostic Front, Soya, Metal, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Did you agree with their musical and editing wise?
I liked how it grew. I liked how it grew and changed. I'm not going to say that I liked that there were too many kids that wanted to now start an agnostic front. Like out in California, there's the band Social Distortion.
Yeah,
After they came out, there was a million social bands: Social Unrest, Social Deviancy, Social Disease, Social this, Social that, and the same thing in New York. Everyone wanted to be agnostic front. Why not be yourself? Why not find something within your own identity? Correct. And when you're trying to be like just another Bad Brains or another agnostic front,
They're very unique.
they're unique. But being a copycat is not cool. Stealing from my music or their music is fine, but copying, not cool. There is a difference.
Hey, and,
Point.
your discography of your band,
Yes.
a little. When, how many records did you release? And
We released a 7-song EP in 1984
Yeah.
on R Radical. Then Nikki Garrett said, I want to re-release your EP. Maybe we could find some extra songs that you didn't release it as an album. And Dave and I said that would be fine, but only if you allow us to record the rest of the songs that we used to always play. And just so this way all these songs that we played as Reagan Youth can be out. Dave would say, should we do the song? And I said no to one thing, and he wanted to sing a chorus on Heavy Metal Shuffle. I said, I'm going to do guitar solo there. I wish I let him sing the chorus on that song. I wish David was able to, not just show up one night, sing 2 versions of each song, and then go home and get attacked by a drug dealer. And I thought, I did not know this happened. No one told me this happened. I thought he disappeared and went on a drug run like he usually did. And when I got a call from the cops, it was already like a month later or something like that. And Nikki Garrett, are you gonna mix this record? And I said, you mean Dave didn't even go in and sing? In the first EP, right? We recorded it from spring of 83 to spring 84. That's 10 minutes of music in over 1 year. Volume 2 is 40 minutes of music recorded in the course of 2 weeks. And I'm playing bass on it because the bass player was, I'm too busy playing guitar with nausea. I can't do this, and he could have done it, but he just wanted to be like, like I don't care, and,
Like us, yeah.
And this is true. This is true. When he came back from his tour with nausea, I said, I don't know if you heard, but David was attacked and, had a frontal lobotomy. I don't care. Where's my money? And,
not for passion. But
well, not just that, but Victor, you didn't write anything. When he would write, when he'd come up with something, and I would say, hey, we could turn that into a song, show it to Dave. No. Or Dave would say, I like what you're playing, Victor. Can we turn that into a song? No. Well, if you didn't contribute any music, if you didn't write any music, and you aren't on any of the recordings, why don't you just go ask the Rolling Stones, where's my money? You didn't write any of their songs, and you're not on any of their recordings. And that's what you say, and he's a great guitar player. Dave asked him to be our bass player. I wish he actually was such a great bass player that we had to find another bass player and use him as a second guitar player. I wish things worked out like they did with Minor Threat and Brian Baker. Brian Baker started out as the bass player and then he ended up becoming the second guitarist. That would have been nice if I could have had something like that with Victor. Unfortunately, it was more about arguing, and that's our whole discography right there. A 7-song EP turned into an LP by Nikki Garrett by adding 3 songs, Anytown and Dog We Trust and No Class. And then me recording bass and guitars. The drummer came in and, again, he will tell you, if you ask the drummer from Volume 2, Reagan Youth is not my musical legacy. My musical legacy is with someone else. It's always, you're second on my list. And when you have band members that are acting like you're, that this project is second on the list. And not only that, but the album, David was attacked, sang 2 takes on each song, and that was it. And it's unmixed. I didn't mix it. People like, you lay your guitars. No, I just had the guy let Dave be able to hear everything when he mixes it. Yeah. And that's what came out. It's an unmixed slop. And most bands, if they did that, that would disappear. Yeah. With us, the record, I couldn't believe when I logged onto the internet and I noticed that people are actually listening to that.
I can tell you, even that friends of mine from Holland, they were excited that I'm gonna see you, and they said a punk from Den Bosch and a punk from Tilburg, they said, oh, Reagan Youth, and they're really excited to have fun tonight, and you're known here, So, but about the. I want to tell you, also ask you about these notorious club days, like the CBGB club in New York.
Yeah.
How was it to play there so regularly? And was it the best punk club in New York?
We played there regularly because there were matinee shows, and underage kids could show up.
Yeah.
So the very first CBGB's matinee, I know they don't keep a record of it, but Dave was very proud to remind me, Paul, we played the very first CB's matinee.
Nice.
We played so many CBGB's matinee that it's kind of a blur to me. We played so many of them. You know what I mean?
I know.
And the thing was, it was great because you had all these young kids that would never be able to get into a club, show up during the daytime, and you played for them, and when it was done, you were able to put away the guitar and go out and do grown-up dance. So here I was influenced, my band, Dave and Surgeon, primarily influencing these young minds, and then afterwards, able to go out and, I'll say this, we did drugs, we did drink, we did fuck, and like Minor Threat, Ian Mackay, Straight Edge. You know what? He saw in the hardcore movie. I heard him say, you know what? When he wrote "Guilty of Being White," he didn't envision some racist white supremacist in Poland using it as an anthem. But they did sing about how they didn't smoke, how they didn't drug, how they didn't drink, but at least they could think enough to write a song that's going to become a racist anthem. My singer did drugs, he fucked, he drank, and he had the brain power enough not to write a song, even though it's so close, that line with Reagan Youth. When you look at it immediately, what is this, some white supremacist bullshit? But as you do a deep dive, but listen, we didn't have any advertising. What better way to advertise when you're going through records and you're flipping?
And you see the cover, then
it makes you stop.
Yes.
It makes you stop. So Dave was doing advertising that way and making people think.
Yeah.
And none of those songs can be used as a racist anthem by some white supremacist in Poland.
Yeah.
Or Croatia for that matter.
When I saw the covers from Reagan Youth, I also think like, oh, what the fuck? And
it made you think.
Yeah,
Did you hear what you said? Yeah. It made you think. And that's what's important.
And is there, were there other very cool venues in New York City at the time?
The best place to play is to find kids that will rent out a loft in Brooklyn, charge $2 for a Paps, $10 to get in, $5 to get in, and you see some bands play, and it's a nice mix of kids. But as for like venue, a real venue, no. I like to DIY, get a loft space, $2 PBRs, $5 to get in. Bands get paid, promoter gets paid, and everyone hangs out.
You played together with many big names over the years, like Dusty Front and stuff. Please tell me about the connection in the scene and how was it to tour all over the US back in the day?
Back in when we started playing, the New York hardcore scene was The New York hardcore scene was born when this band, the Stimulators, the guitar player Denise Mercedes, this woman wrote a song called Loud, Fast Rules, and they played around New York. So us punk rockers played it louder and faster, and that's how hardcore began. And we were one of those bands. Kraut was around before Reagan Youth. They're also considered New York hardcore, even though they might not like to call themselves New York hardcore, or some people in New York City say they're not New York hardcore. I was there back then. Kraut was part of the New York hardcore scene, and bands like Gnostic Front and you know, all these other bands came after we started playing. And in that very beginning, we were playing with the Beastie Boys. They were doing.
They did a lot.
Their very first show was opening up for us at A7, and then we played like 20 shows with them.
And they became huge.
They became huge, and you know what? I'm proud to played alongside this band, and played a bunch of shows. And then one day I hear them on the radio, on mainstream radio. I know these guys. And then I see the video and Jimmy Gestapo's in it.
And Kerry King and stuff in the videos. And
very nice, very nice.
And in 1990 the band broke up. And how
we didn't break up. Reagan left the office. What was the point of having Reagan Youth? And
why did you brought everything together?
Because we were grown men and we wanted to do a band about religion, about organized religion, and we called it House of God. And you can find those recordings. They're grainy. The bass player, who was the editor at High Times, Chris Simonik, has cassettes of those recordings. One day, if he feels comfortable, he could release those recordings. And yes, me and Dave were finished being youths who were talking about politics. We want to be grown men who were taking on a higher authority religion. Plus, I'm writing riffs instead of just chords. Dave is having vocal melodies go up and down instead of da-da-da-da-da-da-da. We grew as musicians. Unfortunately, like a lot of bands, drugs is smarter than Dave and Surgeon. I'm sorry, the disease of addiction is smarter than my singer.
And you played in Europe?
Yes, but not with Dave. Not with Dave. We never were able to play. First time I came to Europe, the band already was established, so I loved that the venues, how they're set up, a small club, a mid-sized club, a big club. They have a place for you to sleep, a refrigerator, so bands don't have to go and rent a motel room or crash at someone's place. The vans are built better for bands because you could put a lot of equipment there, and then there's a place to sleep up top. They care about music better, and Europeans seem to care about American music more than Americans care about American music.
That's true for sure.
Yeah. And they're more politically minded. They're more open-minded. Whether you're talking about, Italians make great socialists. Whether you're talking about fascism or anarchism, Italians made some incredible socialists during that time. And yes, it led to Mussolini, but it also led to someone killing the Italian king. You know what I mean? They made some moves, and anarchy is a relatively new concept started after the French Revolution. And the Franco-Prussian War is basically the Germans giving the French in the countryside a bunch of weapons to go kill all the city folk in Paris. That's basically it. The Spanish Civil War, they like to say that it's the communists against the fascists. It was actually the fascists against the anarchists. They don't bring up anarchy, even though anarchy is a big part of our recent history. Ever since the Industrial Revolution happened, anarchy was an alternative, because anarchy, you don't have that one guy in the office keeping all the money. Who keeps the money? The workers, the builders, the delivermen. Sorry I talk so much.
No problem. Hey, and, because they're
on their time.
Okay. Some final questions about the records. What are your top 3 favorite punk and hardcore records?
Okay, my top favorite hardcore punk records. I love Minor Threat. I love Out of Step. They kind of grew, and I love their early stuff. They have a lot of great stuff. But Out of Step, where they grew and they had 2 guitars, I kind of feel that record. I love Generation X. I wanted to be that guitar player when I was a little kid. Bob Andrews, Generation X, that first record, the American, the American version with Your Generation and all those songs. I'm big fan of The Damned. I'm gonna have to say those first 3 albums by The Damned. 1, 2. I know people didn't like the second album, Music for Pleasure. I think it's one of the most underrated records of all time. And a big shout out to the Germs, GI. That has got to be in top 3 hardcore punk rock. The Germs, GI. You know, and to think of something else, I'll just give one more out there. I'll give a shout out to the Dead Boys because I love their first record, and I think Cheetah Chrome had an incredible guitar sound.
And I want to ask you a final question.
Sure.
You still live the punk rock and roll lifestyle till today, or have you also a quiet life after the?
I kind of didn't stay on the New York hardcore scene. I ended up getting married, and I was married to an actress, and I left the scene. I didn't want to be hardcore for life, but when I moved back into the Lower East Side and I ran into punk rockers, it's like the law of attraction. They came to me, and so I might not be living the hardcore punk rock life, but the hardcore punk rock life has me in its grips.
Marco, his message to the viewers. His message to the viewers.
This was an interview with Paul from Reagan Youth. I'm very happy to see him tonight playing, and I'm very happy that I met you finally after some chats online. And I want to say thank you very much.
And is there a final
words to the viewers in the world, worldwide viewers?
Don't hate other people. Hate what they do. Hate, their actions. Hate what they're thinking and saying, but don't hate on another individual. Yes, there are going to be disagreements, but the way we can solve them is by talking, not with that primal rage that seems to be the algorithm Facebook is pushing on these young, impressionable minds and older ones as well. That's all I want to say. All right?
Thank you very much. For the Passion, not the Fashion, is here in Santa Cruz, California, and we want to say goodbye and see you next time.
Passion for the fashion.
Like, share, subscribe now.